Hey, it's time. Oh man. Oh, it's been a long day. But that's all good because now it's time to stream. I'm curious to see how this goes, how many people we get. I uh I don't see anybody yet, but I don't do this very often, or at least when I do this, I don't ever actually expect people to see it. So, we'll see if anybody actually tunes into this. Right now, I've got audio working, I've got chat working, streaming. I've got this cute little Ukrainian kitten up here. This is what we're going to be cross stitching today. This little guy, our blue and yellow friend. And yeah, so welcome. I'm sure people will be rolling in here kind of gradually. Uh, Feel free to throw me questions in the chat. Those questions can be about MIT, they can be about cross stitching, they can be about life, they can be about anything you want, anything to keep me talking for 2 hours. And my plan for this is to basically just do what I would do anyway this evening, which is cross stitch, except with you and everything that it entails. So some of the times you'll hear me. Hi Savannah. Every once in a while, sometimes you'll hear me talk about cross stitching or give you little tips and advice, which may or may not interest you if you are or are not actually interested in cross stitching. Sometimes I'll tell random stories about my day, or you're going to hear me talk about MIT. So just for a little bit of background, so MIT CPW didn't really exist in a physical manifestation for the last couple of years. 2 years ago, and on April 1st, I got laid off from my job, and I really quick emailed Chris and it was like, help Chris, I need something to do with all my time now that I lost my job. And Chris said, well, we're running around like our hair's on fire because CPW needs to go from virtual or from real to virtual, and we only have 3 weeks to do it. And I said, I can help with that. I can cross stitch on the internet. And so 2 years ago, I cross stitched on the internet for CPW, and it was a big hit, and everybody loved it for some reason. And so, hey, Kellen. So now that I have for 2 years cross stitched for virtual CPW, um, now I'm going to cross stitch for real CPW. So this is kind of like the intro to CPW preview thing. And I will also be on campus live with this exact same setup. So you'll get to see me in person. And I will be live streaming for all of CPW on campus. So let's see what else. Yeah, if they I can't imagine this actually existing. Like I like to think of a world where like the online part of CPW never happened, and I were just like out of the blue just contact admissions and be like, hey, I have a great idea for CPW. So in between all of the Jello wrestling and the fires and the roller coasters and the sneaking around at night and all that, can I just like sit and do like needlework in a corner? I'm sure like people are gonna totally dig it. It's gonna be great, and it totally fits the MIT ethos. Um, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have worked. So I kind of like wedged my way in under the guise of, well, through the extenuating circumstances of COVID. So anyway, so here we are. Got some people in the chat, and so I'm actually going to get started cross stitching. So just a quick like cross stitching 101, and again, interrupt at any point if you want to hear a story, if you have questions about MIT. I will tell you everything I know within reason, which is pretty much everything I know. So cross stitching is like it's embroidery, fabric, art stuff. The best way to think of it, and to me, is that it's pixel art, but it's pixel art with fabric. So you can see here. Let's see if this camera's working. Can you see this here? That's terrible. Let's try this camera. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so see all the holes in this fabric? So there are 14 squares defined by a hole in each corner. There are 14 squares per inch on this fabric, and you essentially use needle and thread to make little crosses in the with the different colors on the holes. And And then after hours and hours and hours of slow and tedious work, you have something gorgeous to show off. So I think as an example over here, no, that's spoiler alert on that one. Nope, I have no examples to show you. I can change the way that this cat is rendering to kind of give you a sense. So you can see all the little X's up here on the pattern. That's what it'll look like in real life. So here we go. So to get started, the big thing about getting started is that you don't want to run out of space on your fabric, right? Because there's no way to splice in, or no clean way to splice in additional fabric. I'm sure there's a way. I haven't had to ever, but so generally what I do is, you can see on my pattern here, I've got the center marked of the blue and yellow cat. And I am going to essentially just, boop, that's the center right there. So what I'll normally do is I'll start there, and then I will count up. I'll decide where in the pattern I actually want to start stitching. So I think I'm going to start on this ear up here. If you can see on the pattern, my little hand moving around, I'm going to start on this ear. So I need to know approximately how far up and over I need to get in order to get to that ear. And so the cool thing about doing this on the computer is I can just draw this little bounding box here. And up here, and I can see that that box I drew is 11 by 33. So I need to go 33 up and 11 over, kind of from my middle here. So super scientifically, I'm going to say, that looks like about like the middle. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Then 11 over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right there. So the other cool thing about this fabric is if you pop a needle in it and then kind of wiggle it around a little bit and open it up, it's just like putting a drill bit in a piece of wood and wiggling it around. If you didn't grab the right size drill bit, it opens up the hole. So now that one hole is just, you see it there? Right there. That one hole is just a little bit bigger than all the other holes. So I've essentially marked my starting spot. So next I need to know which blue I'm going to use. So I went to Joann's and pre-bought all of the different things that I needed to do. So let's take a look at this ear here. That is $9.95. And if you look, it's really subtle distinction of blue, but I actually have a couple of different colors. I have kind of this trim here. And then I have this triangle. And actually, knowing that, I want to start on the triangle. I want to do like the big, wide swaths. So that color is 3843, which is right there, this one here. So the trick to cross stitching, if any of you guys, after watching this video, are just so inspired that you want to take this up with all that extra free time you're going to have when you're on campus, you're not going to have a lot of free time. That's my first crusty alum pearl of wisdom. You'll have free time, but I know my free time was not spent doing anything that required any kind of mental activity at all. There was a lot of rock band. There was a lot of rock band during my free time. Anyway, so if, however, you do choose to take up cross stitching, the first thing you'll want to know is that, or the one thing that'll get you into trouble is this thread. It's called floss, and floss is 6-stranded. It has 6 strands, and you never want to cross stitch with all 6 strands at once. There's a furious debate over whether you should be stitching with 3 or 2 strands. I am a 3-strand kind of person. So you can see here, I have split the floss into 2 strands, and I am separating them. And when you separate them, you want to do it nice and slow, because it's going to kind of induce a twist in the floss, and you don't want it to get it all gnarled and knotted. So you can kind of see it down there. It's a little blurry because of the depth of field, but you can see it twisting. It's hard out. And I don't know if I have the wingspan to get these pulled all the way apart, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. So a couple of things here. Okay, there we go. Well, actually, let's get stitching, and then I'll start talking about this next thing here. So, all right. So you get like twice your money's worth, because now that one length of floss is 2 lengths of floss. Hello, Hector. Thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody who has said hi, including some person. It's always great to know that you're not talking into the void. So just to say it again, there is no formal script. There is no formal anything with this. Basically, I just talk for 2 hours, and you have everything to do with what I talk about. So any questions you have, anything you want to say and have me react to, or, if you just want to learn how to cross stitch, that works too. But I am at your disposal. I guess should I introduce myself? I probably could. So my name is Michael Snively. I am MIT class of 2011, which means I've been out of MIT for 11 years. When I was at MIT, I was an admissions blogger back in the heady days of admissions blogging, when blogs were like the only, or the preferred way of communicating. They've since been replaced with all manner of other types of social media and things, but I mean, there's still a place for them, and it's just hard to explain, what it was like back in the day. But anyway, so I was a blogger for 3 years at MIT. Went from about halfway through my freshman year up through halfway through my senior year. And I've been close with admissions ever since. So I help to read maker portfolios, and I interview people, and I do this. So been staying fairly close to MIT since graduating, but not actually on campus or anything. I think I visited campus like 2 or 3 times since moving out of Boston. And so I'm really excited to come back for this and see everybody and see campus and say hi to you guys and do the whole thing. So I guess I'm making I'm potentially unfairly making an assumption that most of the people joining this chat will also be people attending CPW in real life, which is probably not an appropriate assumption. But if you cannot attend in real life, then hopefully this helps to scratch the MIT itch until you can actually get on campus and start attending classes. But so I've kind of just jumped straight into cross-stitching. I didn't really do any of the normal narration and whatnot that I usually do about how you start the cross-stitch and all this stuff. But if anybody wants to, I can. What would be more entertaining is if anybody had a question or a comment or in some way wanted to prompt me to say anything. Otherwise, you're going to get you're not going to get stories and things that I say. I mean, unless I could talk about the weather today. So for those of you who are interested in the weather in Fort Wayne, Indiana, I could just rock your world with all that. So yeah, so anyway, I'm stitching this kitty. Normally when I'm cross stitching, I will do like forward slashes, right? So here. Okay, so you can see the first 2 rows are X's, and then the bottom row I've done a bunch of forward slashes there, and then what I'm about to do is come back over those and make them crosses, and you just kind of go row by row by row by row. Hey, I have questions and prompts and things. Amanda and Savannah, you're officially on the top of my pre-frost that I like list. Oh, and Sophia. Okay, so yeah, swing by the stream on campus and I'll give you something. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's called cross stitching because you make crosses, right? Ta-da! Look at the little crosses. I'm stitching cross stitches. Okay, I majored in mechanical engineering, or at MIT. It's called Course 2. If you haven't already, like, just devoured every piece of content about MIT online, which is probably also an unfair assumption. I was a bit obsessed when I was applying. So anyway, so mechanical engineering is Course 2, and that was my major. I knew that I wanted to do that before I got into MIT. I think really, if I could have picked a major, it would have like been how to make cool things, but how to make cool things isn't a major at MIT, although they're getting closer. There was this cool new they're starting like a design school at MIT, which is super cool. Like, I don't know when they're going to get all that kicked off and whether you guys will be able to participate in that, but like, definitely keep your ear to the ground on that because it looks super duper awesome. But yeah, so no, mechanical engineering mostly just because I really enjoy making things. I enjoy like, I'm very good at like spatial reasoning and fabrication and creation and things like that. And I'll tell you what, uh, not easy. That was not an easy major, but it's another thing you'll learn about MIT is that you have a bunch of people all working together to get through the same thing that's not easy. So you have a lot of like, misery loves company, trial by fire stories, and lifelong friends that can relate to you in ways that no one else can. So anyway, that was a long-winded answer and a really long answer to what my major was. I did have a minor too. I got a minor in literature. So the thing about minors though is that unless something has changed, like there's no other than like a if you get like an official transcript, like there's no actual proof that you got a minor. It's not on your diploma. You don't get anything like a card or anything. It's just you knowing that you got a minor. And if you buy an official transcript, you like frame that or something, which is, I don't know anybody who does that, but I guess you could. Then you could prove to people that you have a minor. So, most memorable day at MIT. You'd think that'd be a question I've been asked before, but it's not. I've never been asked what the most memorable day was. I mean, I remember many days, which is good since it's been over 10 years and like I could very legitimately see myself like starting to forget like most of my experience there. Old age is super fun and here I am complaining about old age and I guarantee like anyone older than me, like anyone older than 33 is like shut up. Um so yeah, so I remember days. High bar there. I think I don't know if it's like I guess it doesn't need to necessarily be like a positive thing, right? Like we can jump straight to the negative. Um, it's always a fun way to start this. The um, I remember when two things. Um, I remember when I realized that a class was too hard for me my freshman year. Like everyone talks about how hard MIT is. And generally, my philosophy was, just like, sure, it's hard, but if you work hard and put in the time and everything, like, and go to all the resources you have available and everything that, like, you can get through it. And I remember the day when I realized that that wasn't true. And that's a really humbling, kind of shattering realization. Um, Hello, Gordon. Welcome. So the that was freshman year during physics. So I guess also there's a caveat here, which is all of my stories and all of my advice are potentially like 10 years out of date. So bear with me. Kellen and or anybody who's actually on campus needs to like keep me honest if I say something. But it was freshman year and they had like generally three physics classes that you could choose from freshman year. You have 801, which is just like medium physics. It's just like the physics that most people take. And then you have 8012, which is physics for physics majors and people who hate themselves. That's not true, but it's hard physics. So medium physics, hard physics, and then 801L, which is like not a solid physics background, not a great physics program in high school, not prepared for the rigor of physics like other MIT students may be. So, I took the physics SAT too. I took physics in high school. I thought I knew physics because I was going to be a mechanical engineer. And then I got to MIT and I took 801 and I realized I don't know any of this. And everyone in my class does. And I was getting like C's on every homework assignment. I failed my first test. I was going to every office hours. I was spending hours reading the book and doing the homework, and it just wasn't working. because physics isn't about memorizing the material, right? It's about like how do you eliminate variables and balance equations and control for things and conceptualize it. And there's a very unique like mathematical problem solving that goes along with like kinematic equations in physics and whatnot. And I just had never done it. And it was just a bear to wrap my head around while also doing all these other really difficult classes, being in a totally new environment and all that good stuff. So I realized after failing every single problem set and my first exam, I was like, I'm gonna fail. Like that's not good. I need a path forward that results in me not failing. So I went to my professor and I was like, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing this. I'm going to office hours. I'm doing all these things. Guide me, help me, teach me. What do I need to do in order to succeed? And the answer, like, the long and short of it was just keep trying harder. I was like, okay, well, that. So that was when I went to a counselor and talked to them and walked through it, and then got placed down into 801L, which is like much smaller classes and like a more fundamental approach. So it's the same material, but they work you through the problem solving steps more than just giving you problems and then expecting you to know how to solve them. And that was amazing. I actually like started to enjoy physics because someone was explaining it, the part of the problem solving that I needed with everyone else. And that was super great. So first one memorable day is realizing that no matter how hard you try, there are going to be some classes that are just too hard for you and you will potentially fail them. The other memorable day was, okay, so hold on, give me a second. I get into storytelling mode and I forget to cross stitch. So now I've forgotten where I'm at on this cat ear. So give me a second. So I have done, how many rows have I done? I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've done 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I need to start a stitch to the left. That's what this is going to be like, guys. Like this for the next 2 hours, it's just going to be like me talking and then counting and then talking and then counting. So the other one is, so when I got into MIT, I went to a public high school. It wasn't a magnet school. It wasn't anything. It was a great school and I enjoyed it, but it was just public school in Oregon. And I like steeled myself and prepared myself to fail a class. Like I just knew that you hear enough people telling stories about failing classes and things. It's like, okay, I need to mentally prepare for that, because you also hear all these stories about people who had always gotten great grades in high school and just didn't know how to deal with that type of situation because they've staked so much of their life and their sense of self on like academic success. So it's like, okay, getting into and getting through MIT is the reward, and the experiences you have are the reward. And if you fail a class, that's the cost of doing business. So I was ready to fail a class. Here is what I was not ready to do. And this was the other most memorable day. One of my other memorable days was, I was in a class, one of the early mechanical engineering classes, like 2002 or 2003 or something. I can't remember. But I was not, so we took a test and I had studied with my friends. We'd been doing practice problems together and it was all going great and everyone was ready. And we took the test and it just didn't work. Like that test, I got A's on many tests. I got B's on many tests. And every once in a while, whether it's the weather or whether it's like the guy sneezing behind you, or your brain just isn't in the right spot, it just didn't work. So I failed a test. And which is, it's not the first and won't be the last. So, but what I wasn't prepared for is, you feel kind of shitty about failing a test. But then I look and all the people I studied with and all of my friends all got A's. And that is a really uniquely terrible feeling because you get this like, it's awkward for everyone. It's awkward for you. It's awkward for them because they don't know how to react. Because like, they're thrilled that they got A's, but they have to like kind of rein in their excitement because they know you failed. And then you feel stupid because you studied with them and you don't understand why you failed. And they got, it was a whole new thing. So if you can find it in yourself to somehow mentally prepare for that situation, you will be much better prepared than I was. But anyway, yeah, so I think those were the ones where it was just like, those were surprising. Like a lot of other things at MIT were like super fun and I had a great time. I met so many people and did all sorts of things, but those were the two things where like, that truly surprised me about MIT that I was completely unprepared for. And I think which is why they like stuck in my memory. So there you go. Um, I have good stories too, though, like happy stories as well. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Um, Best spot on campus. I would say that that highly depends on what you're trying to do in that spot on campus. So, like, if you're trying to sleep, that's like a whole subset of spots on campus. If you're trying to study, there's like a bit of overlap between that subset and the sleeping subset. Um, uh, I would say one of my least favorite spots on campus was there's like a study area in the like second or third floor of the student center, fourth, fifth. I don't know. The farther you go up in the student center, the more study-rific it gets. Apparently, a bunch of people love to study there, but that particular study environment was not doing it for me. I I I think probably like the nearest and dearest to my heart space on campus, like where I really kind of hit my groove, was there was this one lecture hall over near East Campus, and um, I used to have all my building number memorized, and I don't now anymore. It's embarrassing, but so there was this lecture hall over kind of near the Green Building and East Campus and whatnot. There's like that strip of buildings that leads out to Building 66, and um, that lecture hall was just empty on weekends. And so on weekends when I was studying or working or just needed to like squirrel myself away and focus for 16 hours, I would go into that lecture hall and I would just crank up. I would hook my laptop into the audio-visual system of the room, and I would throw everything up on the projector, and I would just blast my music out of the speakers in this lecture hall, and I would bring in a bunch of food and snacks and water and everything and spread my papers all out over all the tables. And I would basically just take over this lecture hall for like the entire day or the entire weekend and just like walk around like a crazy person, like talking to myself and like waving my finger in the air to try to like figure stuff out. And um, it was super cool. Like it's a much better, at least for me, it's a much better environment than just like sitting at my desk in my room, being able to pace and walk and listen to music and whatnot. It's the other thing about MIT. I don't know if this is still true or not, but unless it's like a lab, I'm sure this has changed. Unless it's like a lab, pretty much everything was open. You could just go into random lecture halls and explore campus, go into any building or hallways. Um, but there's obviously some sensitive areas, and now that um, you can actually use your phone, like the NFC on your phone, to like tap into buildings, not just your ID card. Like you have a digital ID card tied to your phone. They have much tighter control over specifically who can go where and what rooms they have access to and anything. So it sounds like it's a little more controlled. But I think generally though it's still very open. Like it would not surprise me if you could still just go grab a lecture hall and just go nuts in it. Um, okay, hold on. Counting again. Story counting. Story counting. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows now. You know what I'm gonna do? Just to help myself keep track. I'm gonna take this totally different color here off screen. You can't see. I'm grabbing a totally like random color, green. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now I need to do the next one here. So that's probably one of my favorite places on campus. There are a lot of really good places though. Like there's some really, really quiet, cool, big places like Barker Engineering Library. There's like this one random door down in the tunnels that's like super scary and sketchy and dangerous looking. It's like all sorts of anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of really you'll find yourself exploring lots of really cool places on campus. Um, so best spot to take a nap. Um, I would say Barker Engineering Library. I don't know if they still allow that or if that's still a thing that people do there. But that is where noise goes to die. Like, so Barker Engineering Library, for those unacquainted, which is probably all of you because there's no reason you should know this. Barker Engineering Library is what's inside the big dome. So MIT has a big dome. Every once in a while, like, people put things on top of it. But inside of that dome is a library, and it is quiet. Like, it is very socially unacceptable to make noise in that place. People will find out if it's you, and they will let you know they found out it was you. So yeah, I would say Barker Engineering Library is a great spot for a nap if you're not taking up like a place where someone wants to sit and like actually do work. It's an engineering library, so like unless you're looking for a textbook from like the 1930s that has really dense like tables of coefficients for some kind of like triple point of some crazy concoction of something, like they're not going to be books you actually check out. I'm sure people do check them out, but it's a reference library. So mostly people just go there to work and sleep in the really squishy, comfy couches. So that's the best spot to take a nap. The other best spot to take a nap is in your bed, like in your room. Like, it's a really appropriate and comfortable, safe place to take a nap. But honestly, you'll see people just passed out anywhere. Like, you do what you got to do, right? So if you've got an hour between classes and you can't make it back to your room and you've been up all night and you set an alarm on your watch and you just kind of sit in front of your classroom out in the hall and you just take a nap in the hallway before your next class, like, that's totally socially acceptable on campus. No one will think twice. They'll only think twice if you're like taking up all of a couch or a chair or like in some way inconveniencing other people. Best PE classes at MIT. So this is one I know has definitely changed over time, but I don't know how. So when I started at MIT, MIT held the distinction of having the most NCAA varsity sports of any college in the country. And many of those sports had like their double or their pair in a PE class. So you'd have football, and then you could take, well, maybe football is a bad example. I don't know if you had football PE, but anyway, then they did a bunch of cutbacks and a bunch of those sports turned to clubs. All this to say, I didn't actually take any PE classes at MIT. I did a sport. Because if you do a sport, I'm not. Look at this. It's just unacceptable. Come here. There we go. Got it. If you do a sport, you don't have to take PE classes because the sport counts as PE. So what sport did I do in order to get my physical education requirement in? Target pistol. That was my sport. Yeah, super, super blood pumping activity there. So I can't speak a lot to what the best PE classes are. Ice skating is always typically a very popular one because it's just something that not a lot of people have done before, and it's a really, safe, low judgment place to learn to ice skate. So that one is quite popular. Let's see. What else? Look at this. This is so great. Thank you for asking questions. This makes it so much easier to do this instead of just blah. I don't even have like a backup list on the side in case you guys don't ask questions. So I'm literally just flying by the seat of my pants. Okay. I know. Okay, Sophia, I need you to bail me out because I know that I'm looking at an acronym right now that I don't understand because I'm old. HIUDFS. Please, somebody. HIUDFS. I don't even know how to start guessing. I would say like, how about, but that there's no A. Okay, I'm gonna pass on that one until someone defines what keyboard smash. Oh, see, that's not fair. Like, there's so many things that I don't understand. I don't need like, don't do that. No keyboard smashes. Okay. What extracurriculars did I do? I did Pistol. So yeah, so I did target shooting. I did admissions blogging, which at the frequency and rate that I was cranking blog entries out was legitimately a extracurricular. I was doing like a blog entry every day or two. Um, yes. Um, so I was doing a blog entry every day or so. Admissions blogging, Pistol, and then my freshman and sophomore years, and maybe a little bit into my junior year, I was doing a bunch of hacking. So I was spending my nights on roofs and in crawl spaces and whatnot, which just stopped being feasible as I got later in my 4 years because I actually needed that time to sleep instead of crawling around at night. So those are my extracurriculars. How often did you feel like you were academically hanging on by a thread? Oh, there were definitely moments. It's never okay. So it's academically right. Did you say how many? How often? Um, Probably once or twice a year, I would say. Um, like yeah. So where it really gets bad is right before Thanksgiving break or like on Thanksgiving break because that is right before finals. So you go to Thanksgiving, and then you come back from Thanksgiving and it's just like 2 or 3 weeks left in the semester, and it's just hell on earth for those 2 to 3 weeks. All your papers are due, all your last homework assignments are due, all your finals are coming up. You got to deal with the logistics of getting home for winter break, and it's just this whole mess. So one of the things I always did during Thanksgiving was sit down and make a spreadsheet, and I always called it like my doomsday schedule. Um, and then you know, I learned quickly that making lists helps me like curb the panic attacks and help to define exactly what needs to get done and help me kind of like cope and work through it. And I would make this spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet had like what was due, what I had to get on it in order to like set myself up for the final, and then like what I needed on the final in order to get a certain grade, and like all of these different things. And it was a pretty baller spreadsheet every year, and it like evolved and morphed over time. Yeah, that feeling of like academically hanging on by a thread, like towards the end of the semester when everything starts to try to wrap up and you're heading into finals, that's peak. That's the good stuff right there. That's when you find out what you're really made of. Um, so there was that. There was the physics story I was telling you about. There was, I think it also comes along with, like, it's not just academically, like, academically, all things being equal and perfect, and the world giving you like a thumbs up and like thumbs up and helping you along, like you can get through the academics. It's usually academics paired with something else that is out of your control that's like kicking your butt. Um, so like when I got swine flu at MIT, like I still had to do all of my classes and take exams, even though like I was quarantined in my room and had to wear a mask and couldn't leave. Or I don't know, like just a perfect storm of tests. I will say that my literature minor was one where like here's the problem with literature minors. Let me tell you the problem with literature is amazing. You read good books, and there's just so many layers of complexity, and it's amazing. And the professor that I had was amazing, and he like peeled away the layers of the book like an onion, and he guided the conversation in such a good way that like he led everybody towards the conclusions that he wanted us to reach, and it was fascinating. But you do not get a letter grade, A through F, based on reading comprehension. Like, that's not how that works. It's like, hey, professor, I read the book. Look at me. I can read. Can I have an A? No, that's not how that works. They make you write papers. And guess what? I don't like writing papers. I'm bad at formal voice. Read through anything I've ever written. I write the way I speak, which is very informal. And it's very stilted and awful when I try to write in like a formal academic way. And so I loved these classes. They were fascinating. I just devoured these books, and I was getting just terrible grades. I was getting really bad grades in them, but I just kept taking them because they were so good. Even went so far as to like, talking about academically hanging on by a thread, like I met with my professor and I was like, I need another way to get graded. Is there anything I can do? Like, can I make a PowerPoint? Can I do this other, like, can I do anything that shows you that I'm learning from what you're teaching us that is in some form factor other than like a 10-page written essay? And the answer was, nope. Good luck. So that was nice. But anyway, so that was, yeah, academically hanging on by a thread. That was another one of those moments. Also winter, like what is it? Seasonal affective disorder. Ugh, it hits super hard. Um, can I cross stitch a scene from the novel? Random trivia that you don't need to remember for more than the span of about 10 seconds. I did not pick up cross stitching until after I graduated college, so that is not something that I would have asked. There you go. No. So that is something I would have asked if I cross stitched then, right? You know, like, can I do an interpretive dance about Ulysses? I'm sure James Joyce would totally give me an A plus if he saw this. Bonus points to anybody who does an interpretive dance from Ulysses. I don't know what I'll give you, but I'll give you something like money or a pat on the back. So anyway, seasonal affective disorder. How, here, imagine with me a a cold, dirty, slushy, snowy landscape, and you have to get from your warm bedroom through this landscape to a class that is hard, and it's early, and then you get there, and you guys, you're not going to remember I told you this because it's just one thing out of a million that you're going to hear, but during the winter at MIT, for whatever reason, outside it's like negative 20 degrees, and inside the buildings it's like 98 degrees. So I don't know if it's due to like the super old HVAC system at MIT or what it is. So you're like bundled up to within an inch of your life to get from your dorm to the school. And then you get in there and it's like, holy God, like, I just have to take all of the layers off. Um, and so you'll see people standing outside of lecture halls just like stripping down to get ready to go into the lecture hall where they're going to just bake for an hour. And then you're just going to be like coated in sweat. And then you're going to go out into the minus 20 and you're going to have like the sheet of ice like all over your skin. Yeah, it's good stuff. Um, yeah, MIT is super cool. You should all go to MIT. You got in, that's the hard part. That's not the hard part. It gets harder. Although actually, honestly, you know what? Okay, so when I got into MIT, it was a 11% admissions rate. Now it's like less than 4%. So um, normally I would say that MIT is the hard part, getting into the easy part, but that's probably starting to get close to flipping here soon, right? Like I'm sure there is a non-zero percentage where getting in actually becomes more difficult than getting out. I don't know if we're there yet, and I don't know how you'd go about like deriving that number, but it's there, I promise. Um, but yeah, so congratulations, all of you. I guess I should just say that first. Like, congratulations for getting into MIT. That's amazing. 100% would not have gotten in if I'd applied this year. Like, if my application from 2007 went through the system, nope, nuh there's no way. Uh, and I know this because I read maker portfolios, and like, y'all are really good at stuff, and I'm sure that just scratches the surface of some of the stuff you guys are doing. So congratulations, everybody. It's very cool. Um, don't let all of my stories of misery like turn you away from MIT. Because see, the other thing about all this is I want you to see the smile. Like I'm smiling during all these stories, so that means I look back at them fondly. Um, and if I went to anybody who experienced any of these things with me, they would look back on them fondly as well, right? Because you're there with other people, and it's, yeah, it's a whole thing. So, um, favorite hack. I mean, my favorite hack was my baby, which was the Scrabble board on the side of the Media Lab. Um, like that was, I love that one because I like designed it and planned it and scouted the route and like orchestrated the whole thing. It was like my first big project management role at MIT. Instead of team leads and all this stuff, it's like, no, like this is mine. So I love the Scrabble board on the side of the Media Lab. Um, but the hack that I saw that really just impressed me the most, like because like most hacks, it's like, okay, they put a thing on a building, right? um, so if you can get to the top of the building, presumably you can get the thing onto the building, right? That's cool, but it's not particularly like, whoa. So um, I think the one that impressed me the most was, so there's this over by MIT Medical on the far east side of campus, there's like this archway. Um, and this archway is by the media lab, and it's like flat on the top. So it's got like columns, and it's like this big flat thing on top. And I don't know how you'd get onto the top of it. It is spaced many tens of feet from the nearest building, and it's very tall, so no ladder. You're not getting on the top of the ladder. Unless you have access to ladders that I don't have access to and that I've never seen anywhere on campus. And I actually don't know how they got on top, but they did. They got on top. And not only did they get on top, or I'm assuming they got on top, but they took like an entire dorm room with like chair, desk, cat, computer, like everything, and they stuck it upside down under this arch. And that's just super badass. Like, I think it even is like on the cover of the new Nightwork book. So Nightwork is a book about like MIT hacks. And I know a few of the people who did it. I'm not going to say who they are, and I've never asked them how they did it because I don't want to know. But it was just like, that was one where like I walked over there and I saw it and I was like, that is top notch. Like that one is top notch. I don't even know how they'd get it down. I mean, I'm sure there were like scissor lifts and I don't know. That was a really cool one. The upside down lounge on the Media Lab arch. Okay, hold on. I am actually cross-stitching here, I promise. So let's see. 2, 2, and 2, which means I have done these ones. Okay. So now we're going down over here. So does anybody, I guess, hacks. Hacks. I should define this, right? So a hack at MIT, it's not computer hacking. It's like a active in public engineering, or doing something clever that makes people chuckle and smile, usually something rather large and up high on a building. But not always. Sometimes it's an art installation just kind of tucked away in a hallway somewhere, something that people don't even notice for a couple of years and then they discover it. It's basically just applying your engineering and technical and problem solving skills towards an over-the-top art installation somewhere on campus. That is a hack at MIT. I'm sure there's a more formal definition than that, but that is my definition of it. Like I said, a lot of them are just like putting something large up on something tall, putting a car on a building, putting a TARDIS on a different building, making a solar-powered red line train that drives back and forth around the dome, turning the dome into R2-D2, like all these different super cool things. Okay, mental health, sleep, survival tips. Okay, how about this? Oh wait, gotten caught hacking. Can I skip to the bottom just for a half second? No, no one I know has been caught hacking. Nope, no one I know has been caught hacking. Many people I know have almost been caught hacking, but there are a variety of trade secrets that dramatically reduce the likelihood of you getting caught hacking that I'm not going to go into, but doesn't happen very often. And if it does, you've done something wrong. Leave it at that. Okay, so mental health, sleep, and survival tips. So the biggest thing is to figure out what you need. So the story I like to tell is like at MIT, everyone's like, oh, like I love study groups, I love collaborating with people, and like I love, I will say like it's not a competitive environment. Everyone loves working together with each other. Like everyone's working together. It's you against like the institute, and it's all fantastic. And those of you who've worked in study groups before in high school, you're probably going to work in study groups here. But study groups are not for everybody. But when I got in, it seemed like I was like supposed to, because everybody was doing PSET groups. PSET stands for problem set. It's like a homework assignment. You get one a week per class. Anyway, so everybody's doing PSET groups, and they were all working together. And so I did them, and I realized that all of my friends were smarter than me. So, or at least like more academically prepared than me is probably a better way to say that. Because I was the smartest out of all of my friends. I just got worse grades than all of them. Um, but yeah, so no, so I would go to these study groups and we'd like go through the homework and everything, and um, people would get the answers before me. They'd be like, boom, 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 derivation, derivation, derivation. Here's the answer, and I'd be like, great. And I would like scribble it all down and be like, I'm gonna go back later and try to learn what they did, and then I wouldn't, and then I would fail, because I was just being dragged along at the pace that these people were going at. Um, and so what I learned was before ever meeting with a group, I had to give myself like I had to make a solid attempt at this homework by myself and really wrap my head around it, read the book, and like really feel like I understand it, and then get stuck because it's hard, not stuck because I don't understand the material. And then when I felt like I could have an intelligent conversation about it and really interact with people, then I would go work with a group of people and I could actually go back and forth with them. But that's what I learned about myself. The other thing I learned about myself is that like I work terribly if I'm staying up late. Like if I'm working at 3 in the morning and it's because I stayed up till 3 in the morning, like terrible, right? Like no way. Um, but if I go to bed at 8 p.m. and then wake up at midnight, I do great, right? Like I work best after waking up in the morning, not after staying up an entire day and trying to do it at night. Um, Other people don't. So the biggest advice I can have is just figure out what you need and when you work best and how to do that. Other things that I discovered about myself, I always had to wear earplugs during exams because when I studied, it was typically in a quiet environment. You walk into an exam, and the dissonance between what I was used to and what was in the exam was just like unbearable. Um, so I had to start wearing earplugs in exams. And guess what? Hey, I started getting really good grades on my exams because I could just forget where I was, and it was like being back in my room. Um, the Another thing I learned about myself is that I love whiteboards. I love whiteboards. My personal philosophy is that the answer to everything is buried in the whiteboard. You just need to write on it long enough until the answer comes to the surface. Um, there are rooms where like an entire wall is a whiteboard, and I will buy like 20 different colors of markers, and I will just fill the entire wall with different colors and different fonts and different diagrams and everything while studying, because then in my head, visual learner that I am, I can, like, when I get to a question, I can remember, oh yeah, that was like I did that one in orange, like in the bottom left of the board, and then it's like right there in my head. Um, all these different things that you just have to try a bunch of different things. Like at first, it was your freshman year. There's a reason it's PNR, pass no record. Like it's because you're trying to figure out, you're trying to get adjusted and figure out like how you succeed and how you're going to go about it. Um, and then so you struggle with it your freshman year, and then after that you really settle into a groove of like how you attack your classes. The other the other thing that I did, and this may not be something that you're comfortable doing. Hold on, I'm looking at my pattern here. There's 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2. Okay, hold on. One thing that you may not be comfortable doing, depending on like how you were raised and how your morals are, which setting this up to sound very scandalous, but it's not. Like I didn't do every homework assignment. I skipped questions. I was always like keenly aware of, I've got 4 classes worth of work. I know exactly what percentage of which class's grade each homework assignment is. I know my overall standing in each class at any given point, and I prioritize what work I'm doing based on what needs to be done for that class. Am I struggling and I really need to prepare for that exam? I will skip an entire homework assignment on a class I'm doing well in and focus on the class that I'm in trouble in. There are many people who that just doesn't compute. It's like, I have a homework assignment. I must do the homework assignment. I can't not do the homework assignment. For me, it was like, Like, I got a goal. My goal is the best grade I can in every class and to get through this and learn the material. And if that means I have to, cut this one loose this week and focus on this one and then come back from behind on the other one later, like, I was all about that. It's the same way I approach tests, right? Like, never just start on question one and go to the end. Like, read through every single question before you get started, grab the low hanging fruit, identify which problems have the highest point values and the ones that you can knock out like with the lowest risk, and then what time you have left, focus on the problems that you may or may not get through. Like, figuring out and strategizing it is really, um, I was all about that, and it helped. Like, that's what kept my mental state like there, which was when I would start to get overwhelmed, I would have a relief valve, and the relief valve was like, punt that piece set, that one's gone. Oh no. Or like, skipping those lectures for the rest of the semester. I will watch the videos in the library on XYZ date. Um, but like, don't feel like you have to go to every lecture and have to do every homework assignment and have to read every book. Like, it just um, doesn't need to work like that, and you will burn yourself out hard unless you're a much better person than I am. But if I had tried to do everything, even academically, those would have been some dark days. Plus, it's really fun to like tell war stories about like just homework assignments that you just rip in half and you're like, F this. um so let's see. Da, 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 da. Reading the chat. What did I wish I knew before going to college? Mm, I kind of wish I kind of wish that I had a better understanding of people's complexities. Is that the right way to say that? Like, when I went through high school, I was just living the life. Like, I fortunately for me did not struggle with many of the different things that people struggle with in high school, like in terms of like not academics, but just like socioeconomically, race, just tragedy, abusive family. I didn't have to deal with any of that. I was just blissfully ignorant of all of it. Um, I always had food. I had supportive parents. I got to do the activities that I wanted. I got into the school that I wanted. It was, just peachy keen life, which made me um, completely unprepared to empathize and interact with people who did not have that kind of upbringing. I just wasn't able to. And there were some very hard moments going through MIT where basically, like, I got called out on my ignorance and lack of understanding. Um, and I wish I'd learned some of those lessons prior to getting into MIT. But I think that's one of those things where, like, it's never fun when you learn those lessons before MIT, at MIT, or after MIT. So I say that I would want to be more prepared getting into MIT, but honestly, like, um, I think it probably would have been just as hard before or at MIT. And I'm constantly, the more people you meet, the more experiences you have, the more you get a better, well-rounded view of just everything. Um, and it's still going to this day. But MIT is really, I mean, you're going to meet so many people from so many places with so many experiences, and you're going to all be together, like, in the thick of things. Like, everyone's stretched their limits and stuff is going to come through, and it's a very, like, you get on personal levels with a lot of people there. I just wish I had been a little bit more prepared for how to handle those situations. um Best thing to have in my dorm, I discovered way too late, that having a coffee pot. Okay, so here, can I date myself? I'm going to date myself. Keurigs didn't exist when I was in college. Keurigs, or if they did exist, they were like brand because one person got a Keurig like my junior or senior year. And it was like crazy expensive. But what I had in my room was a coffee pot, and I had a single, and I kind of had like an open door policy in the evenings when I was studying. So I would just be like listening to Coldplay or Dragon Force, and I would always have coffee pot like full of coffee in my room. And I would keep cups by it, and people would just come by from my floor in the dorm and just like um, grab a cup of coffee and chat and take a quick study break, and we'd chat with each other, and it became kind of like a Starbucks in the dorm, like a just kind of like a social. Got to take a break at 2 in the morning to grab a cup of coffee, chat for a little bit, and people would just swing by and kind of mill around. So my number one thing that I had to have in the dorm was just I always had coffee available for whoever wanted coffee in my room, and it was like a really good kind of vibe there. Hold on, okay, so I got to count stitches again. Bear with me. So I don't know if you guys are following along, if you can see it. Let's get something a little bigger. So I am now on this long row. Like I finally got down low enough on the ear that I'm going to bridge over here to the right. And so I need to know how many stitches are right here. And that is 9. I need to do 9 stitches. And I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. But yeah, coffee for me. Had to have coffee. Dorm culture's best dorm. You trying to get me in trouble? I'm not answering that question. No way. Okay, so dorm cultures. I'm not even going to answer that question because I don't need that kind of blowback. Um, Here's what I will say. Dorms at MIT are nothing like dorms at most other colleges. Most other colleges, most people I know who went to other colleges, you got freshman dorms, and then you immediately get out as fast as possible and get into an apartment. That's not how it works at MIT. Good luck finding an apartment in Boston that you can afford while a student. I mean, good for you if you can. Most people don't. So MIT guarantees housing all 4 years. I suspect that that is why the admissions rate keeps dropping, is because there's only so many beds and they guarantee a spot to sleep. So until they start building more dorms, they're kind of capped at their admissions numbers. That's a theory. I have no way to know if that's actually true. Seems reasonable to me, though. Okay, hold on. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 more. So the dorms. Because most people have to live in the dorms, they don't want the dorms to be like miserable prisons. The dorms feel much more like communities or apartments. Like the rooms, while not big, are not small. Like I've spent some time in the dorms at University of Oregon. Those are real small, real miserable. Like you would not spend any of your day in your dorm room if you could at all help it. MIT dorms, usually as a freshman, you have a roommate or 2 or 3. And then as you work your way towards senior year, you start shedding roommates until eventually you end up in a single. But of course, exceptions exist. Dorms that are all singles, dorms that are all quads, etc., etc. But I would say generally, if you want to make one big, broad, gross, like blanket stereotype, I would say that West Campus is straight-laced and East Campus is wild. That is, even just saying that is going to get me in trouble because it's so complicated, because like so many people find so many parts of the different dorms, like just they tie it to their identity, and the people in there are like more important to family than them to them. So like East Campus, you'll see roller coasters and building things and like hacking and traditions that date back for like dozens or decades and decades and decades, alums that come back every year to participate in things, and like it's like super tight, close, like don't cross us or me and my family will just completely obliterate you kind of culture in East Campus. And then West Campus has dorms that are the exact same way. Like there are my dorm, Burton Connor, which is being renovated right now. Like there are floors and cultures in that dorm where like I like my friends in my dorm were my groomsmen at my wedding, and I was their groomsman in their wedding. Like it's your dorm becomes your family, and they are so culturally different. Some are quiet, some are loud, some cook, some don't cook, some have musicals that they host. Like you should go to next. Like next, they're putting on a musical for CPW, like pit orchestra, play, stage lights, like the whole thing, like in their dorm common space. That's something that you guys can go attend during CPW. Um, like there's just so many different aspects and elements to the dorms. So I would really, really, really invest the time in getting to know the dorms and finding one you think you'd be comfortable in. MIT will help you with that. Yeah, you'll be given videos and descriptions at CPW. Visit the dorms during CPW. Go into all the different dorms if you can and get a sense of what they're like on the inside. Meet the people, talk to them. That's what CPW is for. And then you get to do all that again during orientation. So during orientation, go into all the dorms and you get to pick your dorm. Or at least you get to rank your dorms, and then there's a matching algorithm, and then it does its best to like give the most people like their highest choice in dorms. But um, that's another thing that makes MIT unique is I don't think most schools like let you pick your dorm. And then once you're in the dorm, guess what? There's another round of selection. There's like different floors and like sub communities within the dorms, and so you do floor rush, where you go to all the different floors and you meet all the different people, and then you get sorted into different floors within the different dorms. So it's a whole thing. I would say that most people probably love their dorm and they would swear by their dorm and tell you that their dorm is the best. But honestly, it's all about fit, right? It's all about whether you, it's just all about how you like to live and how you like to interact with people and what you like to do when you're not studying and all that. Pick a dorm that lets you do the most of those things, and you will be better for it. So, all right. Um, how many people from MIT do I still? Um, how many people from MIT do I still keep in touch with today? Uh, a lot. Um, okay, so I guess Facebook being my primary like social media platform makes me like not young, which is fine. I will embrace that. I will also take recommendations for like social media platforms to pivot to because Facebook is evil. But everybody I know is on Facebook, and everybody I was in college, like I was the target audience. Facebook was invented right before I went to college. So anyway, everyone's on Facebook. On Facebook, I would say like half my friends are skydivers and the other half are MIT alums. Like any like friend that I actively keep in touch with or like go to visit or attend a wedding for or anything like that is not a friend from high school. It's a friend from MIT. So dozens of people I still keep in touch with from MIT. Many of them far more impressive than me, might I add. Like I am so stinking proud of so many people that graduated in my class. Like they're just doing fantastic, amazing things. Like my story is not nearly as exciting, but I live vicariously through them. Double major in common at MIT. Would you recommend it? Depends on the majors. There are a couple of majors where like God help you if you try to double with them. So like these are like I don't know big full majors where you have to take a lot of classes, and there's just not a lot of room for extra classes if you want to double. So to double major, you're already signing up for taking more than your normal course load, right? That makes sense. You're doing twice the amount of MIT in one stint. So instead of taking like 4 classes a semester, you're going to take like 6 classes a semester, which is just like I was not cut out for double majoring. But you're not going to be like an Aero Astro, like Course 16, airplanes and stuff. You're not double majoring that with something. You're just not. Even mechanical engineering is really pushing it. They have kind of like this stripped down version of mechanical engineering that allows you to kind of like concentrate in something else. It's like a double major, but not quite. I would not say double majoring is common, but it is certainly not uncommon. Like you don't hear about someone double majoring and go, like, you must be the first person in 3 years to do that. Like you know, like a bunch of people do it each year. But like of all your friends, like let's say you're just like in your dorm and you're on a floor with like 30, 35 people, there might be one person who's double majoring, maybe two. That'd be my guess. I have no data or numbers to back any of this up with. That is just a gut feeling. But yeah, so people definitely do it. I would only recommend doing it if you know exactly what you want to do with it. Don't do it just to rack up diplomas. Like double major if you have a specific goal in mind and you need that in order to accomplish that goal. Or if just MIT is not hard enough for you with one major, just get two in order to like make it harder. You could do it that way too. I can't process that. That doesn't make sense to me. Okay. I was looking up the blog post about the mailing list of Bert and Connor and realized you wrote that post. I did. Well, it depends on which one. Mailing list of Bert and Connor. That's the one. I don't remember that blog entry. I mean, I know I wrote about. Was that the one about underwear colors? Probably. So there's a little story. I mean, you guys could just go read the blog entry. But hold on. Where am I at with my cat? Look at how much progress I'm making, guys. I have stitched one ear of an entire giant ass cat. Okay. So yeah, so email culture at MIT is mind-boggling. So I've been in the real world for 10 years since MIT, and I suspect that nothing I will ever do will compare to, will have an email culture similar to MIT. On any given day at MIT, just random days, I would receive well over 200 to 300 emails. That's just what it was. If you try to read and sort and put all your emails into folders, you just can't do it that way. You just have to let it like wash over you like a feed and just kind of like read the ones, like pluck the ones out that you want. But anyway, so at MIT, there's this email culture, there's mailing list culture. So here's the, you can be on mailing lists at MIT. It's just, groups of people. It's a mailing list. It's not, but anyone can put you on a mailing list. And I don't think you necessarily, this might have changed, but you didn't really have to like click a link to like agree to be on the mailing list. They would just put you on the mailing list. And so you have like your dorm mailing list. You have your formal dorm mailing list. Then you have like your fun dorm mailing list. Then you have your floor mailing list. Then you have mailing lists for all the activities that you're doing. And then that one thing that you did during CPW that you signed up for that you never did again, but haven't figured out how to get off the mailing list. And then you have professors and this and that. But the different dorms all have their mailing lists, and they all have like different like etiquette and procedures and things for the dorm mailing list. And Bert and Connor, my dorm, if you send an email out to the whole dorm, your tax for doing that, I would say, like what you have to do because you did that, is you have to sign in the signature of the email the color of the underwear that you're wearing, which is super fun. Like it was super fun because people would get super clever and I have no doubt that like people were always entirely honest because there was just no reason not to be honest with the color of the underwear you were wearing. And I think there was even a blog entry where someone like did a statistical analysis. They like crawled all of the Bert and Connor emails for like the last however many years and did like a type and color breakdown of all of the underwear. Food mailing list. Yes, of course. There's like, I guarantee there's more than one food mailing list. But yeah, so yeah, that was Bert and Connor. And then there's Flame Wars, which are amazing. So like you can email all of the dorm mailing lists, and then so you've just sent an email to, like 4,000 people. And then someone will reply all, and then someone will reply all to that, and then it's just chaos ensues. For weeks, sometimes that email thread will stay alive. And there was one, it was before my time, it was like in 2005 or something, where like it got so bad that it like took down MIT's email servers for like days. Like no emails went through because it was just so backlogged with like trying to push out the replies to this one email thread. Those are the best. um, these are called flame wars, and don't ever find yourself the target of one. Don't be the person who starts it. Don't be the person who it's about. You don't need that in your life. Um, a quick word of advice on how to avoid getting everyone to hate you. Um, when it's winter and you are cooking in your dorm, for the love of God, do not set off the smoke detector. Because if you set off the smoke detector when you're cooking, everyone has to leave the dorm and go stand outside in the snow. And because you're cooking, that probably means it's dinner time. So people who are studying and trying to eat and are done for the day and are in their pajamas have to go stand in the snow because you suck at cooking. And so now you have a lot of people who will tell you just what they think about you and your terrible cooking skills. Um, if there is any way to avoid blame or blame someone else or to not be the person responsible for sending everybody out into the snow, find a way to do that. It's no bueno. Okay, let's see. Okay. Continuing up the cat ear. Okay. So what I said about the food mailing list, yes, there are food mailing lists. There's free food, like um, reuse, sometimes post food. So reuse is a mailing list where basically just like when people are done with junk, they'll just put it in the hallway and be like, hey, I put junk in the hallway over here, come get it. Sometimes the junk is good, sometimes the junk is not good, but they will put food on there as well sometimes. That's another thing about MIT is it's got some people into trouble is at MIT if like something's just sitting in the hallway, it's probably free. And so you get into this habit of just like, oh look, this thing in the hallway, I'm just gonna take this for my own. Which you know, like anywhere else is called stealing. At MIT, it's called free stuff in the hallway. Yeah, that more than once has people have been lured into this habit that has really not been good once they left MIT. Okay, so skydiving. Yes, Sophia. Yes, I skydive. Sorry, past tense. Skydived. Um, when I graduated, I needed a hobby because I was living alone in not Boston. I lived south of Boston, but I lived in the greater Boston area. Um, I was living alone and I was working ridiculous hours because I loved my job, but like I needed something other than work. Like I needed to meet people and like do something. Um, and so I was like, wouldn't it be cool to say that I was like a licensed skydiver? Like that'd be super cool to be able to say that. And so I looked it up and I was like, shoot, I can do this. Like I can afford this. There's a place like close enough nearby. Like I'm just gonna go learn to skydive. And so I did. And it was really that simple. There's not a lot to it. I went, I spent the summer skydiving. I got my skydiving license, met a bunch of awesome people, did a bunch of skydiving while I lived in Massachusetts, and then eventually I moved back to Oregon and did a ton of skydiving in Oregon. And I only stopped skydiving when I got married and like was going to have a kid. And it was like, okay, so now that I'm married and going to be a father, you know, it's not the risk of dying or anything. Like skydiving is remarkably safe. It was just a time and financial commitment that didn't make sense in my life anymore. But I think when I stopped jumping, I had like just over 300 jumps. Jumped in Massachusetts, California, Oregon, and then like super cool trip to Dubai, where I was jumping in Dubai because they have one of the best skydiving facilities in the world. And believe it or not, MIT actually has a skydiving club. So you at MIT could take skydiving or be a skydiver. Um, there's actually a lot of skydivers that are MIT grads. It's skydiving's weird that way. See, now you got me on skydiving. So unless someone steers me off of this, which I see there's one from Savannah that could steer me off, but I'm staying on skydiving for a little longer. Um, Here's the thing about skydiving: it's not cheap. Um, so to go from nothing to licensed and with your own gear, expect to pay between $10,000 to $12,000. So not cheap to get into. But then once you have your license and all your own gear, then expect to pay like $23 to $25 a jump. And you do 100 jumps a summer, so you're paying like $2,000 to $2,500 a summer, right? So again, not cheap, but if you're single and you have disposable income and you don't have a family or anything like that, it's great. But because it's expensive, you end up with this really weird like cultural melting pot at the drop zone. So you have a lot of wealthy people or people that have the financial means to do this. So like doctors and MIT grads and like white collar business people who you'd never imagine were skydivers, but totally are. And then you have drop zone bums who skydive for a living and like skydiving is their life and they live in a trailer on the drop zone. And everybody has a great time and they all bond over skydiving. And it's just this really interesting. So you have people like making like super stupid, nerdy MIT physics jokes about skydiving and inadvertently teaching, drop zone bums about like Van der Waals forces and things. And I don't know, it's a really cool crowd. I love skydivers. Like they're also, they have a lot of fun, but they also take it very, very seriously because skydiving is only safe if you're not an idiot about it. And the instant you start to act like an idiot about it, they will not react well. So I really appreciate people like taking it seriously and not joking around too much about it, but also, joking around while being very serious about it. I don't know. I love skydiving. It's good stuff. One day when I'm an empty nester and have money and time again, I will probably get back up and start doing it again. What did you do the summer before freshman year? Is there anything you recommend doing in that time or just chill? I mean, I don't think you really have to do. I would say don't like figure out what textbooks you're gonna have for your classes and like read. Like don't do MIT during the summer. Like if you want to sign up for like a camp or an FPOP or something, like do that. But like don't try to get ahead on your academics. Like you're gonna have enough time to do academics. I did an internship. I worked for the Oregon Department of Transportation just to like earn money, and I just kind of like farted around. I didn't do anything life changing. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't build anything crazy or help society in any way. I just kind of earned money and hung out. Hung out with high school friends for the summer because we were all gonna scatter across the country and never see each other again. But yeah, nah. I mean, I would say mostly just don't take it too seriously. Like, you got into MIT. Like, you did it. Like, take a break. Like, you worked your ass off for this, and you did it. So, like, reward yourself for a little bit and just kind of enjoy. Because after MIT, so MIT is hard, and then after MIT, guess what? Real life. And depending on what the economy in the world looks like when you get out of MIT, real life is hard too. Right now, real life doesn't have to be hard, so don't make it unnecessarily difficult. It's a long way to say just chill. Yeah. Any ideas, suggestions for areas to explore during CPW? Everywhere? Explore everywhere. Don't go anywhere sketchy unless someone has volunteered to show you sketchy places. And by sketchy, I mean like you could see yourself getting in significant amounts of trouble for being in said place, like don't do that on your own, right? Like talk to people and figure out like how to do that properly. Um, Other than that, my plan going into CPW when I went was to just not sleep at all. Like the maximum MIT intake that I can get is completely dependent on how little I sleep. The longer I'm awake, the more I will experience. And I did okay. I think I only slept like 6 or 7 hours over the course of 3 days. Um, it was, uh, and I saw and did a lot. It was awesome. And I don't really remember where I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep somewhere in the student center, just right like on a couch somewhere. I think yeah, that's what it was. It was so like the main floor of the student center. This is like the main floor of the student. So okay, student center. I guess I shouldn't make assumptions. That's like where food is and where like an ATM is and like where you can buy MIT shirts and like register for events and things. It's like a little main hub. There's couches and a Starbucks. Maybe there's not a Starbucks. There was a Dunkin' though. But anyway, it's like an active place where like oftentimes when you come to MIT for the very first time, it's one of the very first buildings you go into, and you wander around. So during CPW, my CPW, I just totally crashed in the student center on the first floor in a couch. Like that's where my body just gave up. And when I woke up the next morning, it was like 10:30 or 11 in the morning. There's all these families and tourists roaming around, and I'm like covered in drool and like smell like 3 days old, and I'm like, oh, and it was great. I was like the authentic MIT student in the wild there, even though I wasn't a student yet. It's just like totally passed out in public. Um, that's part of the ambiance, though, right? Like if you didn't have that, people would be like, "Is this really MIT? I heard that people just sleep everywhere." You gotta take one for the team and be that guy that gets caught sleeping everywhere every once in a while. Do your part to feed the stereotypes. Um, the other thing that's really cool, or that was fun, was you kind of okay, maybe this is just me, but you kind of take pride in the fact that you're like an MIT student, which you should, because there's a lot to be proud of for that. But you also like want it's not brag. Maybe it is brag. I don't know. You want to show off that you're an MIT student, right? Because there's so many people that are like coming through on tours and things. Like you want them to see you and go, wow, that's an MIT student. Oh, look at what they're doing. That's so cool. That's what MIT students do. Um, and like just walking down the hallway with a backpack on the way to class is not going to get that reaction. But there are fun things you can do. Like so in lobby 7, which is like maybe the second building you ever go to when you get to MIT, it's like 77 Massachusetts Ave. Like that's the address. When you type MIT into Google, it takes you to lobby 7. And in lobby 7, there are these 4 columns, but they don't go all the way up. They're just big stone concrete columns like in the 4 corners. At least when I was there, there was nothing on them. I don't know if there's anything on them now. Maybe not. Maybe there is. I don't think there is. But that was a really fun place to just like work, like to just kind of throw your laptop up onto the column and like scamper up the column, and just sit in lobby 7 up on one of these columns and just kind of read or do your work and just kind of look around at people and watch them come in and just kind of like it's kind of like sitting in a coffee shop and watching people go by. Um, and you would get your picture taken a lot. Like there are a lot of pictures I'm in just sitting up on one of those columns. And then you'd end up with like a person on each column. Like everyone would be like perched on these columns, just kind of working and doing their thing. um, okay, I ran out of chat prompts, so I gotta start making stuff up now. Maybe I could ask you guys questions. Um, so is there anything, I guess here's the question, is here, who is so enthralled by the majesty of cross stitching that it's going to be the first thing they do the instant they can find themselves at a craft store, right? Like, have I made a pretty compelling case for cross stitching? You take this hoop and you punch the needle back and forth through it a bunch, and then eventually you have a little Ukrainian cat. I haven't zoomed out lately. I guarantee there are people like that have no idea what I'm doing. Hold on. Ignore the green ear. I was just marking what I'd already done. See? Oh, it's a Ukrainian kitty. I gotta work on the mouth a little bit. I don't know many cats that give you like a little smirky side grin. But it's gonna be great. I don't know what to do with them when I'm done. The other thing about cross stitching is I never really have a plan or a goal for like what to do with it when I complete it. I just kind of cross stitch them. So I have like a really um, big tub in another room in my basement where I have all of my cross stitching just like finished and in a tub, one day to be framed or something. So, um, an experience not to miss. It takes so long though, so I only cross stitch every 6 months. Yeah, it's totally valid. I mean, me too. I go through little waves and spurts of cross stitching. It takes a lot of time. Um, the other, yeah, I made a cross stitch for my son when he was born that I need to get framed, and then I have this cross stitch that I made while I was in the airplane on the way to Dubai that says "Have a nice poop," and it's got a poop emoji. I've cross stitched all the different South Park characters, and I have them each in a little frame, so I can hang them all on a wall somewhere once I find a wall to hang them on. Um, one of my proudest cross stitches. I cross stitched a little picture of Grumpy Cat's face, and I stitched it into a pillow and filled it with catnip and got to give it to Grumpy Cat in real life. And got my picture taken with Grumpy Cat with my little cross-stitch catnip pillow. That was like peak cross-stitch achievement right there. Okay. Well, look at people typed things. I'm gonna read the things that people typed. So here's the cool thing about this design. Maybe you guys didn't know this. Like I'm fairly certain you guys didn't know this, but I went on to Etsy to try to find cross stitch patterns, and I found some. There were some really really cool ones. There were some really cool ones, and so I kept looking at them and going to buy them and realizing that they were from like Ukrainians. So what Etsy was doing was Etsy was serving up Ukrainian artists to like the front page of Etsy and like pushing purchases and search results towards Ukrainians, which is really cool. So by buying these cross stitch patterns, you're basically like putting money directly into the pockets of people in Ukraine, which, personally for me, that is something I would much rather do than donate to like charities because charities have layers of opaqueness. But I know that this random person who's been selling things from Ukraine for the last however many years on Etsy could probably use that money. And if she doesn't need that money, then she can give it to someone else who does need it. So bought a bunch of patterns on Etsy to kind of get some cash flowing into Ukraine and help people out. And now I have this great little blue and yellow cat that I can cross stitch. Yeah, my favorite thing that I've ever cross stitched was probably the Grumpy Cat pillow. Although the cross stitch I made for my son's nursery is also pretty cool. It's the ABCs, but there's a bunch of like spaceships and planets and stars and things all around it. Bum, 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 bum. I think okay, so an experience not to miss out on CPW, or I guess MIT generally. Um, one thing that I had to make a conscious effort to do when I got to MIT was to just embrace how uncomfortable I was going to be at certain moments. Like I do not like to put myself out there. I do not like to go into like parties or activities where I don't know people or like expose myself to brand new things in a very loud and like um, lots of people kind of way. Like it just makes me really, really, really uncomfortable. Like so, um, but I was like, I'm going to MIT. Like, I'm going to be here for 4 years. I need to meet people. I need to figure out who I am going to be with and what I am going to be doing here. I need to just ignore and shut down all of the discomfort and just try as many things as I can, whether I think I'd like them or not, right? Just and so I did like I did a bunch of stuff that like I did once during CPW or once during like orientation when I got to campus, and then never did again because um, I just tried everything once. Even if I was like I knew I wasn't gonna like it, I was like I don't actually know because I haven't done it. So let's try it out. Um, so I would say that that would be the big thing is to it's not really an experience not to miss out on. It's just like a mistake not to make. Like definitely um, put yourself outside of your comfort zone at least at the beginning. It's okay to settle into your comfort zone when school gets hard and you're really like working through it, but at the beginning just go wild. Go to fraternities and sororities and parties and cooking things or whatever makes you uncomfortable. Make sure you get some of that in there too. Um, and just meet people. That oh god, that's so hard to just be like, "Hi, I'm Michael. Do you want to be my friend?" It's like, "Oh, no." That's so hard and so uncomfortable. But man, you gotta do that at the beginning because if you don't do that at the beginning, you're gonna have no friends. You're gonna be in your room. You're gonna be totally miserable, and you're gonna try to find value and solace in your homework and your academics. And then if that starts to fall through, then you have nothing. And that is really a dark place you don't want to be in. So definitely have like relief valves and a network and friends and activities and things to fall back on when things get hard. The best way to do that is to hit it nice and early. Music, book, and food recommendations. These don't have anything to do with MIT, I don't think. Um, music. Uh, I feel like everybody brags about having like an eclectic music taste. So I will tell you what my music tastes are, and you can tell me like degree of eclecticness, right? So if I am listening to music, it is going to either be um, like orchestral movie soundtracks. Um, it will be there's a few Broadway musicals that I really like the music to. Fallout Boy, also quite good. Um, the Tenacious D, very good. Lady Gaga, Muse, um, Dragon Force. Please tell me, does anyone know Dragon Force here? Someone, come on. Someone, don't let me down. Um, and then like every once in a while, I'll just listen to like drum corps music. Just because I really like drum corps music and I'm not often in the mood for it, but every once in a while it's just like I want to hear trumpets play really loud and squealy and I want tubas. Um, so anyway, so that's my music. It's like Tenacious D and Fallout Boy and Lady Gaga and Dragon Force and drum corps music with like some show tunes. That makes sense. Books. I have been on a huge hardcore science fiction binge for like the last like 3 years. Um, the so I run. So here's what I do. I run a marathon, and then I say, "Wow, that was really hard. I don't ever want to do that again." And so I stop running. But the problem is, like in training for my marathon, I had to like increase my caloric intake, and I don't decrease my caloric intake when I'm done running. I trust me. I'm getting to the point here. This story will end up in my favorite book, but I got to get there. So I run and run and run and run, and I eat tons of calories because I'm running 10 miles a day, and it's great, and I'm in the best shape of my life, and I can eat anything I want. And then I run a marathon, and then I say, "Oh God, running sucks. I never want to do that again. Everything hurts and it's awful." So I stop running, but I keep eating, and so then I get fat. And so then I gain 50 pounds, and I'm like, "Oh God, I'm fat. I need to stop being fat, and I still want to eat, so I should probably start running again." So then I run and run and run and run and run. And then I lose weight. I'm like, wow, I feel great. It's time to run another marathon. So then I run a marathon, and then you repeat the cycle. So it's like a year of running, then a marathon, then a year of getting fat, and then a year of running, and then a marathon. I've done this 3 times. Like this is this is the cycle. So this is right now, this is fat Michael. This is like, I have a marathon in a year. I've lost 10 pounds. I'm running. I will get to not fat Michael by the end of the year. Then I'll run my marathon and I'll try to not get fat this time, which is what I say every time. Anyway, when I run, I listen to audiobooks. See, told you I'd get there. I listen to audiobooks when I run. And I've just been hitting every science fiction book I can get my hands on. Like Border Cafe. No. Is that your actual answer? Sorry, you just derailed me by saying Border Cafe. That's not anyone's favorite restaurant, is it? Gordon. Anywho. So lots of space operas. Culture series is really good. Ian Banks. Oh, is Border Cafe gone? Oh, see, that's the other thing. Like, I don't know what restaurants exist and don't exist anymore. Border Cafe was hard because it was Tex-Mex, and I'm not a big Tex-Mex guy. I'm just more of like a traditional like Mexican food. I don't know how to process Tex-Mex. It's like doesn't work for me. Look at these cute cat ears that I've cross-stitched. Aren't they perfect? Where do I want to go with this? Probably over here. Let's get over there. Okay, so his favorite book. Food. My favorite food, at least on campus, was probably Anna's, which is a burrito place in the student center. But I think I remember reading a news article that says that they weren't going to renew their lease and they were going away. And I never actually followed up and to see like if that was actually true and if they actually did end up going away or not. But yeah, the burrito place in the student center called Anna's was like my favorite food on campus. Off campus, okay, so here's big advice or something that you absolutely should not miss out on. Boston's amazing. Like Boston is an awesome city. Like when I was applying to colleges, I did not give a crap about the city that the college was in, because I didn't know how much it mattered. I just, I don't know. It was like, "Oh, you're so excited to go to Boston?" And I was like, "I don't care about Boston. I care about MIT. I don't even know if I'll go into Boston." Boston's so cool. Like it's so cool. And there are people who never go to Boston when they're at MIT, and it's like a 5-minute walk across a bridge. Like you're right there. Like, I don't know if you guys have looked at a map or like are like up on your Boston geography, but you're right there. Like if you live on Dorm Row, like along the river, so like Baker, Burton Connor, Next, New, Massey, like those dorms, that stretch of dorms, and your window is open, you will hear the crowd at Fenway. Like that's how close you are to Boston. And Boston's amazing. Like they have, I mean, there's all the historical stuff, right? So like the Freedom Trail, Bunker Hill Monument, Old North Church, graveyards with like Sam Adams' grave and like where the Boston Massacre was. Tea Party Museum, right, where you can actually go in one of the ships from the Tea Party and like see the last remaining tea crate from the Tea Party. It's like Boston's awesome. And then there's like just tons of like amazing restaurants, so like the North End, which is where all the Italian food is. The Italian food, Italian culture, I guess, but like mostly I went there for the food. Or you have Regina's, which is like amazing pizza, and then you have Mike's Pastries, and you have Maria's Pastries, and then you have the Salumeria, which sells like all sorts of like ham and cheese and stuff from Italy. Then you have like Newbury Comics, which is super cool. Tons of comic books and little vinyl toys and like weird little tchotchke things. You got ice cream stores. You have like Garment District has all sorts of like costumes and weird, crazy, like you buy clothes by the pound. And Boston's awesome. if you don't go into Boston while you are at MIT, you will have missed out on a massive part of the college experience. And I will tell you right now, you will probably regret it later in life. Definitely get into Boston. That all being said, I should give you my. So when I got into MIT, one of the very first people I interacted with, who also got in, actually was from Hanson, Massachusetts, which is like near Boston. She was like Boston-y. And she gave me a couple of like a quick start guide to Boston, like things you need to do before you get to Boston. So, and I can't remember all of them, but like definitely one of them was two Dropkick Murphys songs that you need to listen to. So I'll start by saying Dropkick Murphys band, right? Like Dropkick Murphys is like an Irish band. I don't actually know what genre. Like loud, angry Irish yelling with bagpipes genre. Like that's Dropkick Murphys. You need to listen to Shipping Up to Boston, and you need to listen to Tessie. And you also need to start preparing yourself to never, ever, 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 ever in any way indicate that you might look favorably upon the Yankees. Just don't do it. It's a baseball thing. Well, obviously, it's a baseball thing. It's the Yankees, but like the Yankees and the Red Sox, they're not. It's not good. So anyway, Yankee sucks. Dropkick Murphys are good. Shipping Up to Boston and Tessie. Those are the songs you need to listen to before you get to Boston. And no city name that you read on paper is pronounced the way you think it's pronounced. That's the other one. I'm not going to tell you how to pronounce them. You get to experience the joys of figuring that out by yourself. But yeah, Boston is super, super cool. Cambridge is fine. I don't know. Like Harvard Square is cool. I don't know. Like another thing I had no idea when I went to Boston or when I went to MIT is that Harvard is just like right down the road. Like Harvard and MIT are like a 20-minute walk away from each other. Yeah, 30. I don't know. It's like a mile away down one road. Walk down this road and eventually you're in Harvard. And Harvard has like Harvard Square, which is really pleasant. It's like a little outdoorsy like square, I guess, like town square, town center thing with like little benches and bushes and fountains and stores and lights, and it's really, really, really pleasant. And I'd go there for food and stuff. You could, yeah, you could take the red line, but like, yes, you can take the red line to Harvard Square. But by the time you walk from your dorm, let me get onto this camera. Ready? We're doing it on this camera. By the time you walk from your dorm to the T station, and then you have to T all the way over to Harvard Square, like it takes the same amount of time as if you just walked. The bus, sure, you can take the bus. I hate buses. Like they're loud and they bump and I hate buses. I would much rather walk 30 minutes to Harvard Square, and I'm almost never going alone, right? So I'm with a group of friends, so there's no like real safety issue at all because we're just like walking, depending on time of night. Now, if it's super late, you don't really want to walk through Central, which is like just past MIT. Like totally get that. Like Central can get sketchy sometimes. Then sure, bus or a back road or something. But yeah, Harvard's really close. And then also, if you didn't know this, ready? So MIT and Harvard are rivals, but MIT students tend to disproportionately care about this rivalry, and Harvard students don't know that this rivalry exists. So, as an MIT student, it is totally acceptable to dish on Harvard people and to say that Harvard sucks and that, MIT is way better than Harvard. Just know that no one at Harvard will be like, oh yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. Like, they'll just be like, oh, sorry you think that. Or they just will walk by you and ignore your ranting. But MIT students love to hate on Harvard. It's like our favorite thing. Harvard and Caltech, but much more Harvard. um, but yeah, there you go. MIT is at least 3 times greater than Harvard. I know that's not what that means, but that's what I like to think it means. Okay. So at Harvard, they say the hardest thing about getting into Harvard is getting in, or the hardest thing about Harvard is getting in. Um, and all of the hearsay and everything that I have ever heard about Harvard leads me to believe that that's probably true. Like there was some study a few years ago about like the average like GPA of Harvard students. It's like 95% or something like that. It's like, ugh. Like it's just a different school with a different function and a different purpose, and um, often runs contrary to what MIT students are going for in their educations. So anyway, enough about Harvard. See, you've gotten into MIT now, right? So if you go to MIT, you can legitimately hate on Harvard without just sounding jealous. That's awesome, right? That's a cool thing. It's like a perk. The other perk that the admissions office will actually tell you about is that you can cross-register at Harvard. So if you want to take classes at Harvard, then you can. Likewise, Harvard students can take classes at MIT. Yeah, so Redline. Sorry. So someone wrote Redline. Just as an FYI, MIT has, or MIT, Boston, the greater Boston area is big into public transportation. You will not need a car. You will have nowhere to put your car. Don't take a car. No cars. Instead, you get a Charlie card, or actually, I'm pretty sure now, like your MIT ID functions as a Charlie card, but it's basically just a T pass. The subway at MIT is called the T. The T doesn't stand for anything. It's just called the T, and it's by colors. So you have like red, green, silver, blue, orange. And the red line has a stop at MIT and a bunch of stops around MIT, and will also get you into Boston. So you will definitely spend time on the red line during your time at MIT. And you'll figure out how to navigate the T really quick, and you'll be all about it. Like it's super great. I suspect many of you, when flying to MIT for CPW, will land at Logan International Airport, and you will need to get to MIT somehow. And if you hate everything that is good in the world, you will attempt to take some type of like vehicle with 4 wheels from the airport, and you will discover just how bad traffic can be and how many different bridges you have to try to get across. And depending on what time of day you're trying to do this, you will regret every choice you've ever made in your whole life that led to that moment. Or you can do what seasoned pros do. You take the silver line. So if you are going to research something prior to MIT, here's what I would recommend doing is do a little research on how to get from the silver line to the red line and from the red line to MIT. Because that will, and then once you get off the red line at MIT, you will need to work your way to the student center, which is on the other side of campus. I recommend for CPW not packing like your entire house in your bag, right? Just like a carry-on bag, like with a handle that pops out and like wheels. Bring one of those, right? Like you're going to be gone for 3 days. You can pack 3 days worth of clothes in one of those things. And then yeah, you just get from the red line MIT, red line Kendall MIT stop to the student center where you register for MIT. Definitely spend some time planning that route out. Airport to MIT. That's something you want to get good at. Places to eat in Cambridge or Boston area. I never really got to that question. Place in Harvard called John Harvard's is a really good place to eat. It's really so here's the hard part is not only am I 10 years removed from like the restaurant scene in Boston, but COVID. So I don't know how many restaurants I used to like that even exist anymore. Like they just don't exist. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant to just like rattle off a bunch of places just because I don't want to get you guys all excited for something that just may not even be a thing anymore. I would say talk to upperclassmen. Although, man, even that's going to be hard because they haven't been there. I was talking to my father about this the other day. So you guys are going to CPW. Congratulations, you have it better than the last 2 years. So the freshmen at MIT right now did not get to go to CPW. The sophomores at MIT did not get to go to CPW. The juniors have been to CPW but have never hosted a CPW. The senior class is the only class that has both attended and hosted a CPW, but they haven't done so in like 2 or 3 years. So I'm really curious to see like if there was any kind of like long-term like losses to the MIT CPW experience. Um, like a lot of the legacy information and the vibe and the feel and the traditions and the everything lie in the heads of the seniors and the sophomores, or sorry, the juniors. But the juniors, like, they experienced it, but they didn't actually like host it. And so their little addled pre-frost brains that had no sleep and too much caffeine, like I don't know how like trustworthy like remembering stuff is. So it'll be really interesting to see if like what that does to CPW, whether everything will stay the same and like manage to like pull through, or whether um, CPW exists like as a totally different type of entity this year. Like it could be like as much as I think that my CPW experience and CPW experiences of the past were like super amazing, good, like perfect, refined things. Maybe that's just because that's what I experienced. And this break and this chance to reset will bring out like a new flavor or a new type of CPW, and it'll be a totally new, better thing. I don't know. That's one thing I'm really, really curious to see. Um, this though reminded about talking about food. What I was going to say is trust the upperclassmen. Like so many experiences I had, and then also pay it forward when you're an upperclassman. But so many experiences I had in Boston was like an upperclassman on the floor was like, "Hey, a bunch of us are going out to XYZ restaurant in Boston. Who wants to come?" And all the little freshmen would go, "Me, I want to go." So we would all just like a ton of us would all just troop out of the dorm and wander over into Boston and talk and chat and point at things on the way there, and then we would all eat together, and like those are like super good key experiences. And you'll discover restaurants that you've never been to and didn't know about because the upperclassmen will take you there and they'll tell you stories. Um, that got me wondering. It's like, well, these upperclassmen, like, how much time have they spent on campus the last couple of years? I just have no idea. I have no sense of like what the current situation is and who's been where for how long and like how much of that um, still exists. You should definitely get to Regina's if it's open. Not necessarily during CPW, but during MIT. Regina's is a pizza place in the North End. Definitely go there. Um, but yeah, I those are some fond memories. It's just I even have videos of some of those of us just all like walking into Boston, walking towards food, taking the tea. I think there was once, I can't remember if it was CPW or it was CPW. Um, so when you go to MIT for CPW, you're being paired with an upperclassman. And I didn't spend any time with my upperclassmen. I found another group of pre-frosh and we just did everything together. But, your upperclassman has signed up to like host you and show you around and take you to classes and do that if you want. It's totally up to you whether you do it or not. But I remember that like we lost a pre-frosh in Boston somewhere. Like I can't remember the whole story. It's really vague. It's like I think part of me wanted to forget, Um, but also I've just kind of forgotten naturally. But yeah, we like had this pre-frosh with us, and we went into Boston, and it was at night, and we got the last, and then the tea closes at like 12:30 or 1 in the morning. Like the tea stops running. Um, and then like we caught the last train back, and he wasn't with us, and we just didn't hear from him for the rest of CPW. um, I'm sure that's not how it actually played out because that would be like really alarming. But like I remember we just lost him, and he presumably worked his way back to campus somehow. Um, so if you really want, a unique Boston experience, go get yourself lost after the T closes and try to get from Boston to campus having never done it before and without public transportation. Doesn't that sound fun? At night. At night. I don't recommend doing that, by the way. Like, highly not recommended. So I should talk a little bit. So right now, so a couple of things just kind of like, hold on, let me check something really quick. Where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? Okay, so um, couple of things, just kind of like bookkeeping things. A, I suck at graphic layout and stream layout. So what you see here is like what I have, and in my opinion, it is very functional and not in any way adequate for what I want to do. So anybody who has any kind of like graphic layout designer experience or feels as though they can help me with my overall like layout here, please do. Um, like I can make frames and overlays and I can do like graphics and whatnot. I just don't know like what size different things should be and where they should be in order to make stuff flow and like how to get this experience. Like as evidenced like over here, like see this? I don't know what to put in the space. I don't know what to do there. So if anybody has any like advice or wants to help me work through that, that would be super awesome. Um, this is what I have currently. I have nothing. I have some other stuff that I've kind of mocked up. So there's that. And then I will be doing basically this exact same thing at, well, twice more prior to CPW. So anything you get me like today, I will try to implement by Wednesday when I do another one of these live stream sessions, and we can try it out and see what it looks like there. Um, and then the other thing is I've got this whole live stream set up here. It's like all on this desk that rolls, which is super cool. I'm super psyched for it. I got an IKEA desk and I've got this super awesome, crazy live stream set up with like different monitors and cameras and microphone and everything. But it's all got like super clean, perfect wire management. And the only wire that like ties me to a certain place is like the power cable to the wall. This wall right here behind me. So when I'm on campus, what'll happen is like I will just like roll over to some random spot that I've been assigned, and I will be live streaming on campus. And kind of the idea is like those sidewalk muralists that you see at like festivals and things. So it's like a 5-day festival, and he like does this big ass sidewalk chalk mural thing. It's like that with cross stitching. So I will basically just be cross stitching 24 hours a day for 3 days straight, with as few breaks for sleeping as possible. And by the end, I hope to have finished this nice big cross stitch that the design of which I have not revealed yet. Um, so probably over here, over here. Oh, where's the angle? There it is. Where it says, I don't know what to put in this space, please help me. That will probably at least contain like information about where I physically am in case anybody wants to come visit me and say hi in real life. If you happen to catch me while I need to take a bathroom break, I might just grab a random pre-frost and put them in this chair to like run the stream until I can get back. So if you want to broadcast to whoever happens to be tuning in, you can do that. But yeah, come by and say hi, and if you bring cross-stitching stuff, we can cross-stitch together. Or if you bring cross-stitching stuff to CPW, you can just take a seat and you can cross-stitch for a while. You can run the stream. But definitely come by, because like at 4 a.m. when I'm cross-stitching, like I will need at least some human interaction. Otherwise I will go insane. So chair. You wrote chair. I don't know what to do with that. Chair? Help me out, Sophia. Help me. Help me. Or don't help me. That's fine. That's cool. Just leave me hanging. But yeah, so I'm super excited. I have no idea how well this is going to work. I want to sit in the chair when you're asleep. Yeah, that's fine. It's like a little baby radio station, right? It's like, I basically, the rule is the same as the rules for admissions bloggers, which is like, don't get me fired. Don't say anything that prevents me from coming back next year. Which isn't that hard. Like, I say all sorts of things that probably make admissions uncomfortable, but you know, I don't say anything that like has gotten me fired yet. So, yeah. And I also like, I'm considering like kind of roaming. So like I'll have a home base, but like I said, this desk is like on wheels. Like I added wheels to it. And so I could totally see like midday or at night or something, just taking the whole live streaming setup and like going to a different part of campus and just being there for a while, and then rolling around to somewhere else and then being there for a while just for like a change of scenery. I don't know yet. I don't think I have like any formal events. I think I'm just kind of like ever present. But we'll always be answering questions and trying to drag people over to entertain and interact. It could be that like this just doesn't work at all in person. Like this CPW will determine whether this is genuinely like only good as a live stream and has no business existing in real life. We'll see. I hope that's not the case. I hope somehow it ends up being like super duper fun. I also know that like events shut down. So here's kind of what I'm banking on. Here's one of my big things is like events shut down after a certain time. I think at like 1 p.m. or something. 2 p.m.? No, p.m. a.m. 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Like there's like a window of time where like no events can be scheduled. So when I was at CPW, like during that window of time, it was just boring. Like my friends and I were all awake and we're totally caffeinated and we had nothing to do. My plan is to like use that time to like be the only thing going on, and then you just end up with like this big group of like pre-frost standing around and like shouting things into the mic and hanging out and cross-stitching and just kind of chilling. Another big part of the college experience is like sitting around with a bunch of friends at 3 a.m. and just talking about life, right? And so I could be like the the dorm hallway conversation simulator at 1 a.m. Snively's cross stitch corner. Something that surprised me about MIT. I will answer this, and then I need to go to bed because it's past my bedtime. Because that's what it's like having a 3-year-old. If I get tired. Something that surprised me about MIT was okay, so my first class. So MIT. So here's what MIT is going to be like for you for a while. It's like you get in, woo, you get in, and then, which, you know, in all honesty, congratulations, that's an amazing achievement. And then like MIT is in full recruitment mode right now. Like MIT wants you to accept their offer of admission, and so they are just going to like throw money and food and activities and craziness at you like all the way through April. And then you get accepted in, or then you accept MIT and you say, hey, I want to go here. And MIT says, great. And then they send you even more fun stuff. They're like, hey, now that you've actually said that you're going to come here, we can like spend real money on you. And you get like letters and tubes and big things, and there's videos and all this crap, and it's all really, really exciting. And then you get to MIT, and if you go there early to do a pre-orientation program, you have a great time, and you're like watching movies, and you're getting lobster dinners, and you're going to the science museum, and you're having a great time. And then you do orientation, and then orientation is great. It's like CPW 2.0, right? You're like running around, and like there's free food everywhere, and everything is great. And then it's time to actually go to MIT, right? So from like April through August of this year, you are just in happy, blissful MIT Wonderland status. Like you're just like, wah! Then the one thing that surprised me about MIT was I was ready for my first class. It was the physics class, the one way at the beginning that I said I failed. Yeah, that class was my very first class. I'm like, I've never been to a college class. I don't know what a college class is like. I've only been to high school classes. So like I was excited, nervous, apprehensive, ready to see what it was going to be like. So I had had my laptop, had my backpack, had notebook to take notes in, went to the class, got there early to make sure I didn't get lost. Doors unlocked, everybody went in. I sat down. The professor threw up a PowerPoint and started teaching physics. And that's when I realized that MIT is just school. It was this like, damn it. Like I was hoping it would be like this bigger, like, oh, lectures and like this whole new like being like level of like educational like just like I had put it on a pedestal and I thought it was going to be this like whole new existential educational experience, and I was like, this is just school. I have to go to class and they're going to teach me things and I have to write it down, then I have to do homework, and I'm just going to do this again for the next 4 years, just like I did it for the last 4 years. And I think that surprised me. That moment of realization was like, oh, MIT is just school. I mean, it's more than just school, right? It's like this whole like transformative life experience, and it is like you're going to meet people and do things, and it's amazing. But it's school, like that's what it is. And I don't know why that surprised me. Like I should have known that. Like that's what it is, but it surprised me. So okay. Oh, sorry, that pegged the mic. I'm done. I usually only do these for about 2 hours. So it has now been 2 hours and 15 minutes. You guys get an extra 15 minutes. And I'm going to go to bed. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Hope to see you on Wednesday and Saturday. 2 more of these. And hope to see you in real life at MIT in April for CPW. If you have any concerns about not being able to make it, or you don't think you can afford it, reach out to admissions. They will make sure that you can get there. Don't worry about money. MIT's got plenty of it. They'll spend some on you. And yeah, have a good night. For those of you on the West Coast, enjoy actual night. For those of you on the East Coast, stay up later than me and go do whatever you do after this thing. So, adios. See you later.